everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Atkin. I am your host, Olivia Atkin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Tony Silver. Tony is a LinkedIn master. If you've ever felt lost or frustrated navigating LinkedIn, Tony is here to change that. With over 15 years of experience as a LinkedIn profiler, expert, and educator, Tony has transformed countless profiles and businesses using. You can find Tony on LinkedIn by searching Tony K. Silver or by going to his website, tonyksilver.com, or by email at tony@tonyksilver.com. Hello, Tony. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Great to be here. Yes. And the K is important, people. I am Tony Silver, but the K, part of my branding, also makes me exclusive. There's only one on Google.
I love it. To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Tony Silver?
It means different things, I think. Success is one of those things that it's hard to quantify. It's not all about me. My success is the success of my clients. When they report back to me that they've implemented what I've taught them, that it's produced results. That, for me, is success, when something actually works. For me, success is just being happy in what I do, content in what I do. That's really important to me. I'm sure, like many of your listeners and viewers, we've all done those jobs in the past where it was clocking on 9 to 5 and can't wait to get out the door. No, that's long gone. I really enjoy what I do. I love helping people. So for me, that is success. Getting to that point where you enjoy getting up in the morning. You look forward to the day.
And I love how you bring that up as well, because I remember a time looking back now, right? Because when I was in the thick of it, working my 9 to 5, I was like, okay, this is just what life is, right? I just have to get up for work and I'm not really enjoying it. I'm counting down the minutes, but that's just where I am in life, and that'll pass. And maybe I'll like the next role I'm doing better, but this is what I have to do now to get to that next spot. And it wasn't until I wasn't feeling that way in what I was doing, and I was always excited and always willing to talk about what I do and tell people different insights, that I took a moment back and I was like, you don't have to feel this way. You don't have, meaning you don't have to feel like when you wake up in the morning, oh my God, I have to log on to my computer. I've 8 hours, 10 hours left in my work day, and count down each moment. And I love how you bring up the passion you have and how excited you get to see your clients' results and really drive that through what you're doing. You've become this renowned expert in leveraging LinkedIn to help drive businesses' success. Can you share with us how you initially started using LinkedIn and what inspired you to dive deep into mastering the platform to bring it to others to help them achieve the results they have?
Speaker and a storyteller. Yeah, how long we got? It started back in 2008. And those of you that remember, we had a worldwide recession. Basically, the banks were a little bit naughty, and the outfall from that was quite severe, and it cost me my job. I was in probably one of the jobs I actually quite enjoyed going to when I was employed. But all of a sudden, I was made redundant. And that is when the journey started, because I was made redundant at the grand old age of 48. That's really old, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Well, I didn't think it was. I thought it was just 30 odd years of experience. Must be valuable, surely. Now, there's no ageism in the world, but oh my gosh, there is. And I thought, oh, well, how does one find a job? Based upon the fact all the traditional methods just don't work. LinkedIn and networking were the two things that kept coming up, and therefore I investigated and invested time in both of them. That was important. I got trained in how to use LinkedIn by an official LinkedIn trainer, which don't exist anymore. No one is employed by LinkedIn to do that. But it taught me an awful lot of things about how LinkedIn worked. And I soon learnt that I had this knowledge because I was very lucky to have found the person to teach me. And I was networking voraciously after I found out what it was, which was meeting strange people in various different places. Not uncomfortable at all in the first place. Very scary, actually. But you get used to it and it becomes part of your life, and it's really, really useful. But you need to convey to the people what it is that you can do for them. It's about relationship building, not trying to sell to them, please. And I found that when we got round to talking about, well, what do you do? And, I was quite happy to share what I did and how I went about it. I found that where most people I spoke to, oh, are you on LinkedIn? Yes. I mean, very few people said no. And to this day, that still holds true. But when you start talking to them and maybe just dropping a few little sort of hints and tips in the conversation, it was very obvious to me that majority of people, probably high 90s%, were on LinkedIn but didn't actually know what they were doing. They weren't really sure. I investigated why. The reason why was quite simple, and it holds true to everybody. So it started in May the 5th, 2003, back in America. 5 people in the HR space started it up, and it was an online CV for quite a few years. And then in 2016, Microsoft bought it. So it's changed hands, but it doesn't matter who the owners were. When you join LinkedIn, if those of you can remember, I can't, it's a long time ago, it was fairly straightforward. There's a little guide on what you need to do, and then you were left alone. What were you meant to do? There was no help. So I said to people, did LinkedIn send you a manual on what you needed to do? No one's ever said yes, because no one's ever had it. I thought, brilliant. So everyone's on this lovely, wonderful platform, but no one really knows how to set it up. Oh, and by the way, it does change from time to time, he said sarcastically. 172 updates last year alone, and I've beaten that already this year. But the average person on LinkedIn, when I tell them that, they go, really? Honestly? No, they don't communicate. Dear Olivia, we're just about to update LinkedIn and bring this new feature in. We thought we'd let you know because you might want to use it. Here's a message you're never going to get. So I found this position that everyone I networked with was on LinkedIn. Were they using it properly? Pretty much no. And that was the start of the journey. And I saw the opportunity to help people because I knew what they didn't. And it was just a case of educating them, as I thought, that's why I use that term, in what it can and can't do, but also 2 words I use in all my training: context. It always had to be put in context for their situation. And I use the word consider an awful lot as well, because yes, it works for me and many people. I suggest people consider looking at it. I don't tell them, you must do this, otherwise you'll fail, unlike many trainers I've come across.
I love how you bring up using those 2 words, context, and consider, because I think sometimes all of us forget that what has worked for us might not work for someone else, especially as a consultant or even someone who views it, right? I'm looking to get a certain result, and I'm seeing all these people get from point A to point B. And if I reach out to them and I just do what they do, then I'll get from point A to point B seamlessly. And I love how you're shaking your head no, because that is something that I always try to discuss with people is like, this was my journey. This is what has worked. This is what I've seen has worked, but it might not work. It's not 100% bulletproof, right? There's always that one thing that can change the whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, context is nothing wrong with the reports. But when I do, you'll be the second result. No, you've got completely different circumstances to that person. And actually, when I have meetings with people and it turns into a little bit of, they ask me what I do and how I go about it and start asking about pricing and all that. During that conversation, I allow them to disqualify themselves. So I actually give them the opportunity to count themselves out of working with me. And it is around that maybe the context that they want to use it in is not something that I can actually help them with. And there are certain things within the LinkedIn world which I don't get involved in. And I'm very clear about that with people as well. But what I'm good at, I'm very good at, but there are bits that I'm not. It's just keeping that, yes, you're right, context around too many people, advertising, I can 10 times your business. You don't know my business, so how on earth can you make that comment?
And I think that's so important to realize that we all have a skill set. For example, yours is LinkedIn. But if you don't always know the industry the other person is in. And for example, I'll use myself, podcasting. Podcasting is an industry that is continuously growing. In the next 3 years, it's projected to be a $30 billion industry. But there isn't the knowledge base there. And a lot of individuals think, oh, I do the XYZ. I could get into the podcasting space and help individuals on this. But until you actually step into this space, there are differences that might work in media print marketing that won't work in podcast marketing. And there needs to be those transparent conversations of, this is what we have found that has worked, but it can be different. And I think it's also so important, like you mentioned, to have the conversation with prospective clients and give them the floor to really dive into what they're looking at for and disqualify themselves. Because I think when we're young in entrepreneurship, especially that infancy stage, we all want the business. And this is something I felt too when I started my consulting side of the business. I was like, yes, I could do that. I will work with you. Even though in the back of my head, sometimes I was like, this might go a little sideways because I don't think you're actually prepared for what X, Y, and Z means, or you're looking for different results. So for you as an entrepreneur, of that conversation where you're giving a potential client the floor to walk out the room and not become a client, why for you is that so important? And how do you handle those conversations?
It is, you don't know the person. Often it is you met them briefly at a networking event in a breakout room, etc., and it's kind of it's a done thing to have a one-to-one with them. You don't know their situation, their circumstances, and as I say, I literally I ask questions and sit back and listen because I don't know what exactly they use LinkedIn for. And it's one of the questions I actually ask them. I ask them two questions: why are you on LinkedIn? And what are you trying to achieve? What are your outcomes that you're looking for by using? Sitting back and listening to that gives me a good idea if they are someone that could be potentially a future client of mine, or they're just on LinkedIn and they're quite happy with what they're doing. They're using it as a bit of a Rolodex. They post every now and again. They're not overly fussed about it. And in which case, that's fine. It's everyone's got their own reasons for being on it. It's quite funny when you ask the question, why are you on LinkedIn? It's kind of it because it was the done thing back in the day. For most people that I speak to now, a lot of them are now solopreneurs, small business owners, etc. They were in corporate work once upon a time, and that's probably when they joined LinkedIn, and they were probably told, "Yeah, it's the latest thing. You should be on there." Like me, exactly how I got on there. Uploaded my profile. I did it in 2006, 2007. What's the point of this? I deleted it. Come off of it. Then in 2008, oh yes, it's now very relevant, and I've been made redundant. So I take that experience, what I've had, and go, well, actually, just because I think it's the best thing since sliced bread, doesn't mean everyone else does. Doesn't mean that they actually want to change what they're currently doing either. So I'm very open-minded. I don't never turn a conversation into a sales conversation. The client, or what becomes a client, does it to me. I won't go pitching at all. And it's just listening and absorbing what they're saying, asking certain questions to get a feel. Then they drop buying signals. I am sales trained. They will say a few things, and I just lead it into that situation where, I will give them the option. And it is, if it's right for them, brilliant. If it's not, I'm in the lucky, very lucky place that there are LinkedIn's in every country in the world. LinkedIn, you can have a LinkedIn account when you're 16 years old, because I teach in schools. I know that. My oldest client, who I'm just about to speak to, he's in their 80s. Industry agnostic. And as long as you can speak English, I can speak to you, which gives me the chance to speak to many parts of the world. So if it's not right for someone, it's not right for them. It's okay. There are other people where actually do need the help and want the help. That's fine. I will never take, People who lead me up the garden path and take an awful long time about promising to get back to me and things like that do slightly annoy me. But that's, you're going to get them in any walk of life, I'm afraid. But I take a very open feeling to it. There's no point getting het up about it. If it's not right for them, not right.
And one thing you brought up earlier in discussing LinkedIn is all the changes LinkedIn continuously is doing, and we see every year. For you, how do you keep up with those changes? And as it continues to evolve with features and updates, how do you stay ahead of the features to ensure that your clients always have the most effective strategies in place and at their disposal?
Yeah, and I think it's right at the top of the list of what I want to do. I want to make sure that my clients, not even my clients, just people that speak to me, if I utter something, it is as up to date as it possibly can be. And I have sat in on other LinkedIn trainers. I've been on networking events where other LinkedIn trainers have been there and they've been going through their routine. I'm going, that's out of date. That's out of date. That's out of date. And I just don't think it's fair on the audience. I'm not picking on them because that. I'm just thinking, well, they're not giving the audience the up-to-date information, and which I just think is very poor. The reason that I can is that I am constantly working with a group of LinkedIn trainers. So when I got trained back in the day, I got involved with a group of about 250 across the globe. We share information. Bottom line, we share. And the information we share is because LinkedIn rolls out stuff. Everyone knows that LinkedIn rolls out stuff. Some people don't understand that LinkedIn rolls out stuff where actually they think you can push a button and everyone gets updated. No, that's it's just, we'll break the internet basically, because the other thing is that LinkedIn, well, they don't claim, they're very careful in the way they word things, or they don't word things. And last December, the 1 billion mark on LinkedIn was met, big fanfare, lots of posts about it, etc. What they forgot to say is in what context. Again, that lovely word. The context was that the 1 billionth LinkedIn account had been opened. True, I'm not going to argue with that. It's currently sitting about 1.09 billion. But LinkedIn delete counts. Not so many people delete their own accounts, admittedly, but LinkedIn do. People are continually being kicked off of LinkedIn for breaking the rules and other such. But it's not strictly true. It's, and then you've got the people that are on it but not using it, and people that only post once in a blue moon. There's a lot of context around that as well. And for me, working with this group gives me access to information, because they might roll it out in Far East, Europe, America, but we have this arrangement where we openly share information. We go, right, I've just spotted this, ladies and gentlemen, put some context around it. Sometimes we do beta tests for them, so we kind of say, this is a beta test, it might not ever make it through to actually being on the platform, where it might be tweaked. So we've always got that constant flow of information coming in from all different parts of the world. And yes, some of it doesn't make it through, but it means that you kind of know what's going on, what's coming. I beta test stuff, and 3 or 4 months later, it arrives on LinkedIn. But I've let my clan know in advance to look for it, where to see it, because that's a big thing on LinkedIn. I'll often drop a little thing in a workshop or something like that and go, I'll get, oh, fantastic, Tony. Is that a new one? No, it's been there 3 years. They didn't know about it. So I just point people out, this is where it's going to come, this is what it's going to look like. But then we got the LinkedIn algorithm, well-known beast, not very well understood. And the reason for that really is that LinkedIn don't tell anyone. You can't Google LinkedIn algorithm, but we monitor it on a regular basis. We have companies within our collaboration who have lots of resources, hundreds of hours they put into it, and they can come up with some generic. And when I use context, because one of these generic reports that comes out, and it's very good information. Don't get me wrong. I know the guy personally. It's great information, but he doesn't talk about the context side of things, whereas I always will. And for instance, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday between 10 and 12 has always been good times to post. Okay, it never really changes. It might change by half hour either way, but it's kind of solid information. But is it? And this is where I say bring into context. So if I post at 10 o'clock in the UK on a Tuesday morning, my friends in New York, 5 o'clock. Yeah, you might be up because you get up really early in America, but are you going to be looking at my LinkedIn profile or any of my posts? No. So therefore, that doesn't count. It's always about thinking about the context around this, and we share this information, and they bring in new features. Times may change, and certain types of posts perform better than others, and we just keep on top of it. And yeah, we drop those little things into networking events, etc., just to get the attention. But of course, yeah, I mean the real gold dust is held back from clients, of course, because they're the people that pay the money. But I do give away a lot of stuff, which most people haven't heard, and that's the great thing, is I can give away stuff for me, which is just I've known it for years, but they don't know it, and therefore they will find it useful. And that's it; it has to be useful. Giving them some updates, which are just when I do it, I do tell people this is an update. I'm not making you aware just because I can make you aware. I don't see it's very useful, but it might be for you. But others, I'm going, God, you must see this. This is really great. But it needs to be put in context.
For you, that being said as well, there's two parts I want to emphasize there. Talking about this collaboration you have, it really demonstrates collaborating and not just networking, a one and done scenario, as well as not competing with people in your own space, actually coming together and working together. And I think that's important because sometimes we look at people who are in our space, and instead of using them as a resource and being able to provide information to each other to help each other grow, we go, I have to keep all the information to myself because I'm competing with them. So I love that example you show and how you guys can work together. You guys do provide skill sets and resources because there's only so many hours in the day as well. We can't be everywhere seeing every update on what our industry is doing. And the second part is you mentioning the fact that there's some things that you love to share about LinkedIn and that you put on your page and share it to individuals. So what are your top 3 most favorite things that you think people don't really think about?
Gosh, I've got to keep it to 3, have I?
I mean, you could do more.
yeah, I could. Good guys. So go putting things into context. I fully believe, and yes, it is part of my 4 pillars. But I always give it away free to virtually anyone because I think it's so important, and it's very simple. And it is, what do people see when they first land on your profile? Now, it doesn't matter what device they're using, be it phone, tablet, or desktop. We have a big problem. We have lots of problems in the world, let's face it, but one in particular is attention spans or no attention spans. So if someone lands on your LinkedIn profile, maybe from a search, someone's mentioned you, etc., they land and they will not have a chance to scroll, but they haven't got time to. So all they can see is your banner, your headshot, and the headline that sits underneath your name. Those 3 items, there's your 3 items now. I won't do that. Those 3 items be what they make the decision on. 7 seconds later, they will go, right, oh, I've looked at Olivia's profile, and actually, yes, there's enough information there for me to understand exactly what she does and how she can help me. Yes, it's all about them, not you at this stage, a bit like the top of any web page. Or there's not enough information here. I'm going to go and scroll left or right to the next person in that search because there was lots of people in it. So I say to people, make sure that you tell people exactly what it is you can do to help them within that frame of those 3 things. The headshot just needs to make sure that it's a headshot, which I say headshot because what I do is I'm challenging as well, being an expert, but in a nice, friendly way. And I go to people, just go, and something that people just don't do. Just go and look at your own LinkedIn profile on your own phone. Quite simply, what you see is what other people do. So if some of the text you put on your banner is too small for you to read, guess what? No one else can. And if you've got too much of your body in your headshot and I can't really see your characteristics for your face, these are all about trust, eye contact. I can't see them. You're not looking at me, and some people have got the old pose. Doesn't work. No. So that is making sure that in that 7 seconds there's enough information to give the person due reason to scroll down. Well, that's a biggie for me. That's why I give it away free. Secondly, a question I ask in lots of workshops and in groups and sessions: who do you think owns the data on LinkedIn? LinkedIn or you? Go on, Olivia, answer that. Go on.
Well, LinkedIn, in my opinion, owns the data.
Yep, and you're wrong. And you're absolutely wrong. As is most people who answer that question. No, you can actually download all your data on LinkedIn. It is yours. They even give you a very easy way of doing it. So I show people, go into on your top of your LinkedIn profile, there's a little me, a picture of you, a very small one, drop down menu, go to settings and privacy, and in there you'll see the word data. Click on that and it gives you the ability to download all your data, all your messages, your connections. How many years? I mean, for me, 2008 to now, that's 16 years of data that I could lose because if LinkedIn decided to remove me or they break down, whatever it is, and I just say to people, no, it's yours. You deserve the right to. LinkedIn says how to download your data. They even use the word your data. It's yours. Please download it. You know, if you do one thing today, go and download your data because it's so risky not to. It really is. And then let's go to the third one. What's another good one? Let me think about it. Yeah, your about section, I think, is the most important part of LinkedIn when you've got them to scroll down, of course, because if they look to your profile, there's nothing much there on your top card, and the banner doesn't tell them much, they won't scroll down. So pointless. But when they do, your about section is very clearly split into two parts. First 4 lines are only visible. Then you've got a little dot, see more at the end of the 4th line. Well, guess what? People have got to push that to see the rest of your about section. So in my opinion, humble as it is, wouldn't it be a good idea just to give them good reason to do so? And therefore, I wouldn't use too much the I word. I do this, I do that. Not that attractive, but if you can show them how you can help them by using the you word a lot, then when they get to the 4th line, they need to find out more about Olivia. Oh, yes, I need to find out more. I will push that see more, which used to be a lovely button, but now it's not just text. And then it opens up and there's 2,600 characters in there. Plenty of room to do some really good work. So, I think when I do this, most people have nowhere near 2,600. I go, well, that massive opportunity. Let's be positive. Not be sort of, oh, that's all you got. No, there's plenty of opportunity to add value into your about section. Tell people what you do, how you go about it. Put some positive statistics in there. Make sure it's full of bullet points so people will see if they skim read. And at the bottom, please, and choose your favorite swear word here. Put a call to action at the bottom of it, please. Because if I've read it and I'm interested, but I don't know what to do because you haven't told me, guess what I'll do? Nothing. And then you've just lost the opportunity. But there you go, there's 3.
I love it. And it also brings us into the aspect of your 4 pillars. And you created this framework that has been incredibly effective. And as we could just tell, your advice, even the small things matter in LinkedIn. That profile picture, as you mentioned, so many people want to get super creative with it. And when I see that, I'm like, why? All I need to see is your face. And the more creative on LinkedIn you get with things, sometimes it could backfire. So I love that tips. Can you share the story behind how you developed these pillars and explain the distinct role each of them plays in building a successful LinkedIn profile and strategy?
It's not been around that long. Probably only about 18 months, if probably less than that. And I'll admit to how it came about, then I'll tell you a bit more detail. Because lots of other people had the 3 steps of this, the 4 of that, the 6 of this. Seemed to be a trend. So being slightly playful, I decided I'd invent 4 or something. But there was my brain's logical. Okay, despite the playful side to me, that is very logical. And the four was because there are four areas I work on with LinkedIn, which we're just about to go through. Pillars, yeah, they are the foundations. If you don't get these right, you're never going to be truly successful on LinkedIn. So it contributes about 80% of what I teach anyone. So I could go into the schools I go to in the UK, and there's a 16-year-old student in front of me, might not even know what they're going to do when they leave school. I teach them exactly the same if it was a CEO of a global corporation sitting in front of me. They are the fundamentals. They are the pillars of LinkedIn. Get these wrong, you're never going to be successful. Get them right, yeah, good chance. You've heard one. And it's initially it's most important, because if I land on your profile and I'm going, I don't know what, I haven't got time to sit and work it out, I'm going to go and scroll to the next person in that search. Once we get them scroll down, yeah, pillar 2 starts with the about section, but it's also all the other sections on LinkedIn. Now, when you join LinkedIn, whether it was back in the early days or yesterday, doesn't matter, you have to fill in a certain amount of sections when you first join. There are loads of others. And a top tip here is at the top of your own profile, there's a button. Go and discover it. It's at the top, right next to the message button or the connect button, whichever you're actually showing to the outside world. It says add profile section. The 3 levels on there, every single one of those has different things in it. Every single thing within those 3 areas is helping you build a complete LinkedIn profile. So it's indexed LinkedIn, and the indexing are all the way through all these. So optimization, I suppose, is the word people like to use. I don't personally, but that's probably accurate. To optimize it to its fullest, you need to be aware of what the sections are and the subsections and the subsections of the subsections and the revisions to the subsections. Something's just happened recently. I was in the middle of doing a bit of training, and I knew the update was coming. Like always, I never knew sure exactly when it's going to land. And it was there. So I was expecting it, and I could talk to the person about it. So they're always doing bits like that. But yeah, I've gone in literally before this meeting and filled some bits in, so I'm making sure I'm scoring higher on the index. The third pillar, well, that's activities. And so we can make your profile look nice and attractive. People will scroll down, and all the sections are there. You're scoring well on the search rankings, etc., because you've optimized it. But you need to drive people there. And that's where the algorithm comes in. And what I do is the activities are not just posting. There are lots of other things you can do. I always tell people you've got 2 audiences when you do anything on LinkedIn. The actual audience, hopefully it's targeted, always for some people. So, if LinkedIn had its way, everyone would be on LinkedIn all day, every day. It would be brilliant. Not going to happen. So all the time that you're on there, you need to be useful and let LinkedIn know you're there. So there are activities that let LinkedIn know you're around, and therefore you get a tick in the box. But there's also the posting, which is probably the main thing that most people do. There are so many rules and regulations in the background that you just, as a normal you have no idea. And I teach people that so they can optimize when they post, how they post, what type of post, etc., and how then to get reach beyond what their LinkedIn will allow them, which is between 8 to 10% of your connections. For those of you that didn't know, no, LinkedIn doesn't post all your posts to every single person you're connected to. I'm awfully sorry. And with your good self, you're somewhere in about the 2 to 2,500 connections. Yeah, 200 to 250 people is all it will post it to. That's maybe an issue for most people. So I show them how to get a lot more reach beyond that. It's all done within the rules of LinkedIn, because LinkedIn monitor what I do. And then the final one, which I had a bit of fun with earlier, with the guy who was looking for work, the search engine. Yeah, you can be found, but you can also search. So it's a database. Keywords are very important. I show people how to work around that. And from stage, as I said earlier, I'm a professional speaker, so I go on stage and do these sort of things. I may ask the audience, what's an ideal job title, someone you might look up on LinkedIn, and I get those people shout out. Mostly generic stuff, HR director and things like that, marketing director. Stick it into LinkedIn, push the button on the screen behind me, and it's lots of zeros on the end of the result. And this is where I get a little bit playful. I go, oh, look, ladies and gentlemen, this is keys to a red Italian sports car. You can have them when you finish going through that list. Let the penny drop, realize that if it's 5 or 6 million, they're never going to get to the end of that list. So it's a bit pointless. Would they therefore be interested in a way of turning that 5 or 6 million into about 50 people? Takes about 2 minutes. Anyone want to? Of course, they all put their hands up, and I'd show them how to do it. You can drive. So I'll teach you how to use the search engine to be highly targeted, which I've just done for this gentleman who was looking for work, and yeah, he gave me a recommendation almost immediately because it just opened up a whole new world to him that he could use it for. So those are the 4 key elements. There are other things on LinkedIn, of course, but if you get those right, if you get a profile when people land on it, they're attracted to it, they scroll down, you're coming up in the searches on a regular basis because LinkedIn loves the way you've optimized it. Your post is getting out to a lot more people and a lot more targeted than the generic stuff a lot of people do. What's the New Yorkers say? Throwing spaghetti at a kitchen wall, hoping some of it sticks. Doesn't work, does it? And then, yeah, when you do need to search, you know exactly how to get those really big numbers down to something that's a lot more realistic. So those are the 4 pillars, and it can apply to a 16-year-old kid in a school or a 65-year-old CEO in his ivory tower.
And that's the thing that I love about your knowledge and how you really bring it to the forefront. But not just that, this is something that no matter who you are, if you're on LinkedIn, you should know this information. You should understand. And, you know, when you and I met the first time, you challenged me on some of these things. I was like, oh, Tony's like, yeah, don't tell people. No, but it's true. And I think that's the thing, as someone who has talked about LinkedIn in classrooms and said it is important to set up your profile. It is important to have that picture where you're looking in the face and make sure you're filling in all the boxes. As Tony mentioned, things are changing. So, you know, Tony knew information that I didn't know yet. And he was like, hey, are you doing this with your banner? My banner was one of the big things that Tony brought to my attention. I was like, I just put my company logo, like that represents me. That's what we're doing. You know, that's what I put. And he's like, no, give us more information. And then I started to really think about it and get creative with it. But it is something where, you know, no matter who we are or what we're doing, sometimes we go, okay, this is all I need to provide. Everything will be optimized. And the second part that I also want to really highlight, Tony, that you brought up was the fact that your posts aren't going to everyone. And this was just a conversation I had with an individual at a conference I was just speaking at. They were like, well, we post to LinkedIn. And I said, okay, well, how do you get your reach? And they're like, well, you know, we'll do a post. Sometimes we pay for that post. And I go, do you know how many people that post is actually getting to? And are you keeping track of your reach and return on those organic posts versus your paid ones? Because even the paid, as you mentioned, it's timing. It's all about, is it timed to your audience? Was the context you're using it in? And really, are you optimizing it? And those are things none of us think about regularly.
I mean, the favorite response I get from anyone is a really simple one. Gosh, that makes sense. Yeah, that. Because if I told you something that didn't make sense, the chances are you wouldn't do it. But if I tell you something that makes glaring sense, even makes you think, oh, what on earth hadn't I thought of that before myself? Then the chances are you're going to do something about it. Same as, you know, obviously, as you said, we've spoken before. It made you think, it made you do some changes. And, you know, I always apologize at the end of the workshop. I did a workshop earlier for a lady, and she says, oh, I said, I'm sorry about that homework. She said, no, it's brilliant. She said, but it's a list and a half. I said, well, yeah, you know, but does it all make sense? Yes, that's the trouble. I need to do it all.
Tony, how can people get in contact with you if they want to connect with you?
But as I say, you know, that K is important, Tony K Silver. So if you Google me, I think I'm on the first 5 pages. Is that enough? And if you look on LinkedIn, I am the only person that's called Tony K Silver on LinkedIn. So it's very easy to find. And that's why the K was dropped in there. It is my middle name. It's not made up. It is real. But it just made it a lot easier. And I don't have to give out WW this and all that. I just say, look me up on Google, look me up on LinkedIn. You can't not find me. It's impossible. Unless you spell it wrong for some reason.
And I love that because I'm the same way. When people are like, wait, where do I go? I'm like, just search my name. And I love how you put your middle name in there to make sure people can really find you. Thank you, Tony.
You need to make things easy for people. People are not lazy. They just haven't got time. So they've got to try and work things out. They haven't got time to do it. Just make it easy.
And I love how you bring that up, because I will end it on this before I thank you and bring in the key takeaways. But I was just at a conference and I was speaking to the board of directors, and I'm the youngest in the room. A lot of people know when you implement something and you're seeing it on the back end, everything makes sense to you, right? And I come in the door and I am talking to them and I say, I think there's a disconnect here. And if we do webinars on this and you provide it where we can access it in the category that most people will search, then you filled the gap. And someone looks at me and they're like, well, they're all in there. We have 113 videos. And I go, show me. And he starts going through. And first thing I see is on the emails, they direct you to the website. He's going right into the app. Second thing I notice is he's not doing the one overarching term that someone from the outside would do. He's putting in the 5 keyword options that would bring up these 113 videos. So then he brings up the 113 video and goes, see, there's 113 videos. And I said, but you didn't search what I would search. You knew the categories they fell under. So you were able to bring these up. And I said, I would search top 10 trends, because that is what, when you're talking to people, you're saying these are the top 10 trends in the industry. And I said, so if you don't do that and put that as the category or a guide in the search, it's not going to populate to me. And the more touch points I have to go through to get that information, the more opportunities you are giving me to check out and leave. And that is something that we all forget when we're making things. I call it, are you doing it for dummies? That famous book, blah, 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 for dummies, blah, 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 for dummies. And, but it's so true. If you're not thinking about this as, hey, can someone who knows absolutely nothing implement this? Then it might not be the best way of doing it.
And keywords is an important part of my training. That all my clients get a keyword video. It's a 15-minute video on how to use keywords on LinkedIn for both being found and actually searching. And it's imperative that they watch it, because you can't assume anything, but you also must look at the size of pond that you're swimming in by using some really generic terms. You don't want to be doing it in keywords. People don't think that LinkedIn is a database. They don't think of it like that, but it is. It's a massive database. There's a billion accounts. Well, they're not all running, as we well know, but think of all the company pages as well. It's a massive, massive database of amazingly useful information. But because it's so big, you kind of need to know what you're doing when you're searching. So keywords are very important.
Well, thank you, Tony, for all of your insight today.
My pleasure.
And a few of our key takeaways from today's conversation is LinkedIn is a database. Remember that. A lot of us, I shouldn't say we all, but a lot of us love data. And when you're looking through data, you need to know how to organize that data. So keywords, as Tony mentioned, are so important, as well as networking is about relationship building, not selling. Tony mentioned this in the beginning. Networking can be such a powerful tool, especially when individuals feel connected to you. When they join a call or you walk into a room and you try networking, but you're trying to pitch someone right out the door, you're not going to build that long-term relationship, and you're not going to maybe get introduced to their contacts who might introduce you to more people. You're building that web. As well as when you do things on LinkedIn, think about the context you are in. So does it work? What is that context? As Tony mentioned, timing, right? Between 10 and 12 is the best time to post, as he mentioned, but it depends. Are you in EST time zone? Are we talking United Kingdom? Where are we? And who are you trying to reach? As well as ask yourself, why are you on LinkedIn and what do you want to do with it? I love this. And I challenge everyone who's listening to walk away from this, take a moment, sit down, maybe with that soda or coffee and go, why am I on LinkedIn? And what do I want to do with being on LinkedIn? What do I want to receive from being on this platform? And that could really open your eyes to some things you might be doing or what you need to be doing that you haven't been doing, it make you look at the platform in a different way. As well as Tony mentioned, banner, headshot, and the first line under your name. It is about telling that someone else what you can do for them. Tell people what you do and how you can help them. As Tony mentioned, people are probably going to give you 7 seconds. If you can't identify who you are, what you do, and potentially how you could help them, if they're looking for something, they're going to keep scrolling. As well as you own your own data. This is something I didn't even know before Tony mentioned it on here, how you can pull that data from the inception of you being on LinkedIn to now. And as Tony mentioned, make it a point every X amount of months, whether it's quarterly, whatever it might be, to go in and pull that and make sure all your information that has been updated, your conversations, contact information you might have received, is up to date and saved. So if something happens, you have all that data, as well as those 4 lines in your about section should focus on how you could help someone else, as well as put a call to action at the bottom of that about section. Challenge someone to do something, reach out to you. If you have that call to action, people want to engage. They now know how to proceed forward. This was a great episode with our top-notch guest, Tony Silver. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.